Well, hello there. I've got a lovely project to share with you today. I've been so challenged by upcycling things, and I've been doing a bit of fun sort of investigating what I could do with recycled soda cans. So today I'd like to show you a project that I have that I think would be useful not only for the Christmas season, just for birthdays and things going forward. So why don't you just sit down and relax for a few minutes with me. It's not going to be a very long video, and I'll show you what I have up my sleeve. So let me put those out the way. So the first thing that I've done is that I have cleaned and opened out a soda can, and I'll put the link to my video which explains to you how to do that. But what you will notice is that one side of the can is silver and the other side, depending on what you buy, will have patterns. So I'm going to make use of these, and today we're going to be making some gift tags. And the lovely thing about these is that you'll be able to use them on multiple occasions because you'll be able to repurpose them. They're not like a paper or a card tag which is actually going to just disintegrate. So I have this set of dies. It's vintage butterfly dies, and I just got these at Hobbycraft. I think it was about £15, but my word, they've been worth it because I've got in the set here different size tags, I've got tickets, I've got little things that I could use as bunting, I've got little labels, so it's really been a good purchase from my point of view. And today we're going to be making some gift tags. I also have one other die that I've used, and that is this one, which came from a nesting set of circular dies, and I'll show you what I've made with that shortly. So let's get started. You're going to need your soda can, you're going to need your embossing machine. I'm putting down my cutting plate face downwards because I just like to work that way. And you will notice, sorry, the cans are really noisy, they do taper in a little bit towards the top, and I haven't cut all of that off. So I'm just going to make a few little snips, and any of those of you that are sewers will know exactly what that does. It just flattens out the material. Maybe one here, just to help me to be able to lay this up correctly. So I'm going to be using washi tape to lay my things up, and I will be able to position my dies where I feel I would like the patterns to be. So let me just show you what I have here. I've got some text. I've got that which is just text. I think I'm going to use that for this one. And I'm just going to put down some washi tape. You can use sellotape or you can use masking tape, but I do find that the dies don't really cut very well through sellotape, although having said that, I did use that in one of my demo videos simply because it was transparent and it would allow you to show through. So what you'll notice here is that this die has a little raised edge, and I'm putting that face downwards onto my can, and I'm putting it face downwards onto the cutting plate. I don't want it to go onto my base plate because that will obviously cut into the base plate, and I think that the cutting plate is a slightly firmer material. So let's just get this taped down. So I've done a circle, I've done a fairly large tag here. Let me maybe do a slightly smaller one, and I could perhaps position it onto that says Coke Studio. Need an extra pair of hands here. There is a way that you can flatten your tins before you start if you wanted to. Just cover the tin with a piece of paper, set your iron onto the hottest setting, and without steam, or just with a dry iron, you'll need to iron for about 3 minutes, and that will flatten your tins out. But for now it's absolutely fine not to have that. So I think I can fit a few more little things in. I'm going to take this one, and it says here prizes including music, Ticketmaster, so let's just make use of that washi tape there. And you can have a lot of fun with these because there are some really beautiful cans, and I'll show you some just now that I cut up earlier. Right, so I'm really set to go with my sandwich. I've selected the dies that I want to use, and now I'm going to put my A plate or my base plate on top, and I'm just going to flip that over. So you'll see that my cutting plate is on top. So let me get my embossing machine a bit closer, and I'll probably need to run this through a couple of times just depending on how it cuts. Some of the cans you'll notice when you work with them are slightly thicker than the others. I found cans like 7-Up to be slightly thicker than some of the others like Cokes, but you just have to play with that, and it doesn't mean to say it won't cut through. It just means that you might have to pass it through your embossing machine once or twice extra. So let's just have a look and see what happens here. The machine I'm using here is a Spellbinders Grand Caliber, and I've had this for quite a while now, very well used, and I'm very happy with it. So let's see how we do. Right, so I'm going to flip this over so it's face downwards on my cutting plate, and if I keep all my dies in place and I turn it over, I'll see here very clearly where it's cut through nicely. So for most of this it's cut through except this edge on this circular one, so I'll pass that through again. But for now, let me just, oh, maybe I'll just pass it through quickly. All right, bear with me. Sorry, change of plans. That's our lives crafters, isn't it? Let me just run it through and I'll take them all off at the same time. Sometimes you also just need to change the orientation of how you've laid it up, because maybe it presses slightly harder on one section of the plate than the other. I don't know what happens inside the machine, but you might have to do that. Right, so let's see how we do this time round. Quite often it's first time that you've done this, that 2 passes and that's more than sufficient. And so, as I say, sometimes with the thicker ones I'm having to do it 5 or 6 times. Right, so let's see. Right, cutting plate is face downwards. Let's have another look and see what's happened here. Yep, that's cut through really nicely, so you can see that very clearly, and it was worth just going back over it. So now I've got all my dies cut, and I'm just going to separate them from the washi tape. If you've got very, very intricate designs, you might find that there are 1 or 2 snag points, in which case I would recommend that you just keep your die attached to the metal, and then when you've actually just gently eased it away from the snag point, you might even have to use a very fine pair of scissors, something with like an embroidery pair that's old that you could use for snipping metal. Then you would be able to just loosen those snag points and release it, but having the die to press against really is helpful. Right, so let's get the washi tape off. Perfect. All these little bits that fall off I also store, because sometimes you want to do an embellishment and you just need a tiny little bit of sparkle, and I just looked at them the other day and I thought, oh, those are really nice. How difficult is it to cut a perfect little circle? And there we go. Right, so what we have here is my dies. Let me get my embossing machines and things off here. Give me a bit more space. Sorry, if you knew how tiny my space was that I'm working in, you'd be surprised. I've gone from an enormous home in South Africa to a really small space here, but I'm actually really happy, so it doesn't matter at all. So there's my first label that I've cut, or my tag. There's my second one, and I really love the fact that it's got the text in. There's the circular one, and there is the little one that actually had the Coke Studio showing through. Right, so what I've done with some of these is to actually take my stays on ink pad, and I have stamped on them, and that works really well, but you would have to use a permanent ink rather than one of these Distress Oxide inks. That's not going to work at all. They just will rub off with the first smudge. So let me get my piece of paper and make some space. So I think I'm going to take this green tag that I've already done, just to show you that you could stamp across the bottom or lengthways. And let me find maybe this one. This was a tag that was also a Coke can, but it was a limited edition intergalactic one, and it's just got such pretty markings, so you could write on that quite easily. And if I wanted to, I could write with a Sharpie pen. If you want to repurpose it, then you can just wipe it off with one of the wet wipes or a little bit of rubbing alcohol, because these are alcohol based. So you could write on here, happy birthday, and there you've got a really nice unique tag for your gift. Right, so I'm going to show you some of the other little ones that I've done, and it'll just give you some idea of what they look like when they're all threaded up. So this one here is that die that I've done, and I've got that in a few different colors, and I'm really happy with that. Then I've got this larger die, and I've done that in a few different colors, and if you have a look at those, you'll just see how gorgeous they all are. Let me see if I've got any more of those bigger ones now. And I've got that smaller size die, and that was the one that I did with a Merry Christmas. And then I've got just a plain one that was just from the back of a Coke bottle. This one over here was also from that intergalactic Coke can, which I really enjoyed. This was a still water can. That was the intergalactic Coke can. This was, gosh, I think one of these Monster Energy kind of drinks. I'm not too sure. And there's another water bottle. So these are really nice because the grey is very neutral, so you could use those for birthdays or for Christmas. And I have this tiny little one here, and I've done several of these in different colors, which all look really festive. And I have used some different thread here just to create something a little bit unusual. You could use something really sparkly. And then this is the last one that I did, this big tag, and I might just need to put this on the side like that. I'll show you this one as well, because I had originally tried to cut a very intricate sentiment out of this metal, but as you can see from this, it had very, very close designs, and I thought, well, I can still use that to cut out a die shape because the sentiment is not that visible. And I've done that, so you've got that embossed texture, or you could just run it through with one of your embossing plates. And here was the little one that I did with the Coke Studio. So, my friends, there's a very simple project for you, just to make some fun gift tags. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you've enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing to my channel. I do post regularly, at least once, if not twice a week. I do try for twice a week, but it's not always possible because I work full-time. But I'd love to have you part of my community. Bye for now.